Thank you all. Social media has become a pivotal point in modern society, and meanwhile, it is becoming the mirror of their personalities. Therefore, to discuss the importance and method of improving social media presence, I would like to introduce our resource person who obtained BSc Engineering degree with first-class honors and MSc from the Department of Computer Science and Engineering, University of Moratuwa. She completed her PhD in 2013 from University of Otago, New Zealand. Her main research area is natural language processing and member of the Personal Conduct Committee of ACL. Also, she is the chair of the Widening Natural Language Processing International Organization. So with great honor, I invite Dr. SurangikaRanathunga to discuss on improving your social media presence.
Thank you, Lakshita. So this was scheduled for the morning session, but we didn't have time. So due to popular demand, I'm doing it now. Just give me a minute to load. Okay, so the slides, the introduction said improving your social media presence, but I decided to broaden it a little bit and talk about improving your digital presence. Now, you must be wondering, every day you spend hours in the YouTube and Facebook, and now I'm asking you to improve it even further, right? So that's not what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to tell you how we can effectively use that time we spend on the internet to improve our research, professional research life. So, small note of caution, my presentation is a bit biased towards computer science because that is my area. So, at the end of my presentation, if you have any ideas from your disciplines, let's share and discuss. So, if you register through the Eventbrite, we have shared you a small form. If you have any suggestions, questions, you can post those into that form. Right. So first, I'm talking about how to communicate our research. So why communication is important? In the morning, if you were there for the keynote speech, Professor Ranjit mentioned a very nice thing, the Medici effect. I don't know whether you remember. What is Medici effect? So innovation, nice research comes not when same people work together, but when diverse people work together. So not only engineers, engineers working with engineers may produce something, but if you want to get something better, let the engineers work with doctors, musicians, dancers, philosophers. So let everyone work together. So that is why communication is important. It will create a nice ecosystem where different people will work together. So in contrary to this success that has shown elsewhere in the world, this is what is happening in Sri Lanka. So I took this from a research paper, survey paper done by one of my colleagues, Dr. Nisansa De Silva. This is a live paper, meaning that he keeps on updating it. This is mainly on Sinhala language computing. That means natural language processing research in Sri Lanka, right? So you can't see the names, but in the top, we see the research conducted by UCSC. The next big block shows the research conducted on this area by CSE department of our university. And the small block is the Kelaniya University. And there's another block for the IT faculty of University of Moratuwa. So what do you see here? We all work in silos. There's no intercommunication between even faculties of the same university. Not to even talk about the communication between universities in the same country. So this is the situation we are facing, and that is why communication is important, right? Now let's see how we can communicate among ourselves at different levels. So what are the platforms we have? So I'm not going to spend too much time on that. We all know what we have: Facebook, YouTube, WhatsApp, Instagram, Twitter, whatnot. We have the technology at our fingertips, on your laptop, on your smartphone. Everything is there. And we are not alien to these technologies. We are already accessing. So this is the statistics for Sri Lanka. We are already in the internet. We are using all these technologies. So the question is, as researchers, how are we going to use these technologies for the betterment of our research career? So within the university, what can we do? Of course, old is gold. Mail. Use it wisely to communicate within the department, across departments, create mailing lists, start interest groups, try to collaborate and communicate. On top of that, in our university, we have recently created another communication platform using Slack. So if you are a postgraduate student in this university, you would have most probably received an invitation to join Slack. So Slack is a new platform similar to WhatsApp, where we can use it for organizational communication in addition to email. So the good thing about this Slack platform is you don't need to have to connect it to a mobile number. And unlike WhatsApp, within one workspace, you can have different channels to communicate different matters. So we have tried to create different channels for different departments, different faculties, and then group the postgraduate, so that the discussion can continue in the virtual space. So when the Faculty of Graduate Studies suggested to create a physical space for the postgraduate students to meet, I suggested let's try a virtual space as well. So this is the outcome. The benefit is sometimes the traditional communication methods, when they fail, we can resort to this. A very good example is last week, we were contacting the 3MT participants to pass some important information. Very late, we found out that the mails have ended up in spam. So we quickly went and put a message in Slack asking them to go and check the spam if they did not see any communication from us. So I kindly request you, check your email. If you have received an invitation to join the Slack, please join and start communicating with your department members, members from the other faculties, other departments, and let's try to build this, culture. So for sometimes, so there was a presentation on concrete, identifying defects. So you may have a lot of data, and you may not know the exact way to process that data. And that way, some colleague in the digital sciences may know, right? So if you start discussing your problems, right, you'll identify new tools, new resources, right, new ideas, and maybe it will end up in collaborative research. That is exactly what we want in this university. So try to come out of your silos and try to communicate first within the university. Then communication within Sri Lanka, I must admit that I don't know much. I receive mail from NSF, I receive mail from ISL. Other than that, I'm aware of one group in Facebook. Other than that, I don't know. Maybe you know. If you know, let's all discuss and learn what's out there for us to communicate at a national level. How can we communicate with other researchers in other universities? Is there any platform? And going globally. So still mailing lists play a very big role. So here what I show is the mailing list that I have registered to, but this may not be relevant to you at all. This is mainly for AI and machine learning. So from these, we get quite a lot of information. So job advertisements, conference notices, journal special issue notices, grant schemes, everything comes in these mailing lists. And nice discussions of the top scholars in the fields go on in this mailing list. So if your field, if your research area has such global mailing lists, do search and join them and join the discussions. In addition, to communicate globally, to present yourself globally, we have the most common platforms, LinkedIn and Twitter. LinkedIn is a very good professional network where industry keeps on monitoring continuously. You may get more opportunities if you keep up to date with LinkedIn and if you, post about your achievements and your awards and those things. And Twitter is a very informal communication medium, as we all know. But for some reason, researchers love it. At least in my field, all the researchers, young and old, live in Twitter. Right? So of course, now with all the controversy around Twitter, we don't know how long Twitter will be there. But then we'll have to move to something like Mastodon. But still, Twitter is live and kicking, and people are using it. So I'll show you some use cases of the use of Twitter and what I gain from Twitter. Right? You can decide whether your researchers live in Twitter, and if so, you also can join Twitter. So in my field, whenever someone publishes a paper, they go and, talk about it in Twitter. Okay, we published a paper. So this is how I get to know the latest technologies, latest outputs in my research field. And then there are a lot of nice debates going on about the latest developments. So this Christopher Manning is like the father of natural language processing. And he's pretty old, but he's having a very heated discussion about a very recently introduced AI technology called ChatGPT. So just for your curiosity, ChatGPT, if you try to use it, can write a poem for you, a new food recipe for you, it will write a computer program for you, it can write anything. So there's a lot of controversy, lot of discussion going on Twitter. You can learn all these things just by, following correct figures in Twitter. And I'll show you some advantages I recently had. So there was an initiative to create a universal system called Universal NER. So they were calling for researchers from different countries who are conversing different languages. So I jumped on board and said, okay, I'll contribute with my language, Sinhala. So now I'm part of a research group of like 100 researchers who are collaboratively working across borders to develop this system. And so I was able to find a nice initiative called a Global Women in NLP. So I joined their Facebook page. I attend their session. Now I'm part of that group. So all I found these from Twitter. And then I wanted to find some information for one of my research papers. I posted it in Twitter, and I got the answer what I was looking for. And finally, this was the most recent and most significant achievement I had through Twitter. So I had a paper in a conference called AACL. So as others, I just went and, boasted about it. And it was quoted and retweeted by the senior area chair of that conference. And he says he's proud to review this paper and accept it. So it was like a big, satisfaction for me to get the, acceptance by the research community. And then when this went viral, a lot of people started to, respond and comment on this. And then I was even contacted by a scientist in Google. So this is the impact it can make, just 240 or some odd characters, but you can reach the world, reach the researchers in your field. So just have a look to see whether it is worthwhile for you to explore, establish yourself in Twitter. So there are many other discussion platforms. Maybe you know better than me, so I have listed some. So Quora is a Q&A platform. Reddit and Discord are slightly different, where you can have special interest groups. You can join those groups and then discuss things that are common to that community. So especially Discord is on VoIP. That means you can communicate not only with messages, but also with chat and other media. So I recently saw that the AI community, artificial intelligence community, is more and more moving to Discord for communication. And finally, Stack Overflow is specific to computing, where people post the problems they have when they develop software, and then they get support. So hugely established platform. So there may be platforms specific to your disciplines, right? So try to identify them and join and see if you can take the benefit. So many platforms. What to choose, how to use. So my fundamental rule when I select doing everything is identify the type of the task. Is it a producing task or is it a consuming task? So if you spend too much time playing video games, I consider it as a consuming task. Right? If you spend too much time on Facebook, watching your friends, trips and all those, I consider it as a consuming task. On the other hand, the time I spend on Twitter, I consider a producing task. I get to know the latest technology. I get to know the sentiment of other researchers. I get to know about all the, call for papers, research grant availability, everything. So Twitter is my producing task. Going to Facebook is my consuming task. So learn to prioritize. And then you have to identify the right platform to you. So I marketed Twitter here because I have gained a lot from Twitter because my field, the researchers live on Twitter. But it may not be the same for you. Maybe it is LinkedIn or maybe it is Facebook for you. So identify the correct platform. Talk to your seniors and supervisors and identify which digital platform is most beneficial to advance your career. And third one, again my personal rule, accept or reject, right? Try to separate your personal and professional life in cyberspace. So when you use the same account to talk about, going on a trip and talk about your research, I don't know how many people will, get both, right? So there are people who will be interested in your professional life, your research output, and there will be your, grandmother and your uncles and aunts who would like to know what you ate in the morning, right? So don't mix it. That's my rule. So there are some people, right, who tweet or post everything. So as if they think that others live to read what they are posting, right? So you have to be careful when you decide who to follow because the information you get depends on who you follow in the network. So if you follow the correct people, you get the correct updates, right? So, and the other one is keep your profiles up to date. Because sometimes there are headhunters out there, there are researchers who are looking at other people's work. If you keep your profiles up to date, you may get better opportunities. And finally, putting everything together, post wisely, right? So I think you're all ladders. I don't have to give you a lecture on what to post and what not to post, right? So again, producing versus consuming. Engaging in a heated debate with someone whether, we should go to Aragale or not. So that's a consuming task. You can have a nice discussion on some research output. So that is a producing task. So decide what to post, decide what to react to, right? Manage your communication and time wisely. And other than that, as a researcher, you have to manage your research profile, right? Okay, again, old is gold. If you have at least one paper published, make sure you have a scholar profile, right? So normally, Scholar does a very decent job. It finds all your papers and the citations, but every once in a while, it misses some of your publications, and it will erroneously get other people's publications under your name. So that's why it is important to have a look every once in a while to see that your profile is up to date and correct. And as for me, I will always go and add Google Scholar alerts to my papers so that I know who's citing my papers and what they are telling about my papers. And also if there's a seminal or a very important paper from someone else, I go and add an alert. So whenever someone else cites it, I get an alert so I can easily stay up to date with the current changes in my research field. On top of that, there are newer platforms where these are similar to Google Scholar, but they have added features. So first one is Semantic Scholar. So you can go and create your profile and you can see additional statistics. For example, most influential papers that have been published by you. That means how others regard your paper. So that information you can get from Semantic Scholar. And especially when you try to become a reviewer in some journals and top-end conferences, they will require you to create a Scholar profile. In addition, there's the dimensions.ai. So this is also similar to Semantic Scholar or Google Scholar, but again, it will give additional insight. For example, it will predict how many citations you will get in next year based on the citations you collected this year. So explore this on top of Google Scholar and see where you and where others are. And disseminating your research work is also very important, right? So we also always think of publishing our work in a conference or a journal. So that is perfectly fine, and that is what is counted as your, formal research output. But on top of that, considering the pace this research world moves, we'll have to get our research out quickly. Because if you have tried to publish in a journal also, sometimes you would have experience, right? They take sometimes an year, 6 months to give the first review, and then you have to do the corrections, again submit, and the production takes a long time. So then maybe 2 years gone, and by the time your research would have been outdated. So getting your work out to the public as quickly as possible is very important, right? So that is where the preprint versions come into play. For physical sciences, we always use ARXIV, and for different disciplines, there are now different archival systems created. And also recently, IEEE also introduced their own archival system. So, but you have to be a bit careful before deciding whether you should just go and dump your preprint there, right? So first think, am I going to publish this paper somewhere else? Of course you have to, right? Then you have to think, where am I going to publish? So if that conference or journal is double blind, that means your author information should not be disclosed during the review period, then don't put your paper into the archive, because it violates double blind policy and your paper might get rejected. And in certain journals, they are very strict on this IP rights. So they say if you give the copyright to us, no closed version to this paper should be in the archive. So double check with the journal. If they allow a preprint, don't wait, put the version to the preprint. The beauty of having preprint is you can always update. So that living survey paper I mentioned you about is in archive. So every 6 months this paper gets updated. So you can always get a journal paper or a conference paper out of your research, but afterward if you want to update your paper again and again, you can always consider using the preprint version. And what if your journal or conference does not allow another version available in the internet for free? Then you can consider this other platform to store your research paper. For example, in ResearchGate, you can put the paper title and the abstract and hide the PDF of the paper. So if someone comes across your abstract and identifies it as useful, then they can contact you via ResearchGate. And then you can privately send your version of the paper to that person. So that is not illegal. Communicating at a personal level is not illegal at all. You are not violating any copyright. So I always use ResearchGate. Every once in a while, I get requests. So all my students, I ask, whenever they publish a paper, store a private copy in ResearchGate and add me as a co-author. And when they finish their research and disappear, still I will get the emails, and I will always respond within a week or so. Because more people reading your paper means you get more citations, right? So disseminate your research in every possible way. And then other platforms, similar Research Square, I have not used it, but I have seen it. And this academia.edu, it's the basic version has very limited functions. So if you can afford, you can pay and take. But I have not paid and taken the premium version. Finally, so I'll try to keep this short. Okay, I have already gone about the time. So try to create your personal web page. So Google Sites offers you a very easy, flexible way to create your website. And if you are a bit into techie, you can use GitHub pages, and there are many other third-party platforms that allows you to create your personal web page. So create it to promote yourself, promote research, and to reach to the others. So that's it. I don't think we'll have time for the questions. So offline, if you have anything, I'll happy to discuss. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Dr. Surangika, for that nice and informative sharing of knowledge, how to connect social media and academic life.